Ah, Google reps. The people that make other people's blood boil in rage or make you over the moon over the fact that Google is contacting you. Google rep experiences are all over the map, but if you've opened this video, you probably want to know how you can stop them from wasting your time. The truth is, if you flat out reject a Google rep, then clients can read it as close-minded. If you, on the other hand, entertain every pitch that they come with every time they call you for every single client, you'll quickly burn 5 to 20% of your week. I don't even want to burn 5%, because 5 to 20% in agency life is our margin. So the whole thing comes back into how do we actually balance this? I've spent 15 years inside the Google Ads ecosystem. I've been to intimate events. I've been handpicked to be part of a 15 agency premier partner group back when it actually meant something. I've had countless trips to Mountain View, all while not being particularly accommodating to Google. And the key is a simple system that keeps your relationship productive and your week protected. Don't nitpick every stupid thing they suggest, but make them accountable. This flips the call from being salesy to accountable in 60 seconds and changes the entire conversation. If they know you're going to hold them accountable in a month and 2 months and 3 months for what they've recommended, then they will be a little bit more careful with what they recommend. In the rest of this video, I'll show you the framework that I use. I'll go through an exact deck that I got from Google and how I approached it with the client on the call. All this is to make sure you keep your clients' confidence in you, make reps useful, and stop giving away your week. For chapter 1, I wanted to talk about how the Google support teams are built, because it's something that's crucial for you to understand, because you need to understand who you're dealing with. Google is built like this, and I'm just overly simplifying this based on my memory and what I know, and it will 100% be a little bit different. Google is hundreds of thousands of people working across many different products, but from a Google Ads perspective, from an agency perspective, from an advertiser perspective, there's the external team. These are outsourced, glorified telemarketers that just get a call list with accounts, and they are supposed to do this based on a recommendation engine, and then they just call an email like ding, ding, ding. These are the most annoying people in the world, and you should just discard them immediately. If somebody calls you and you can see that they are not from Google directly, just immediately say no. There's no need to talk to them. They have nothing to bring to the table. And if you're one of them, I'm sure you're a nice person, just like all other telemarketers, but you have no experience with this. The next group is the internal SMB team. They're just a tad bit elevated from the external teams. They have a more direct touch point inside of Google, and some of them are really, really good. There's thousands of these people globally, and they're usually in big hubs across Europe or in the US or in other big countries. Then there's the internal large client team. A large client services team, whatever you want to call it. Internal large client team, you have to get pretty high up in terms of the client size in order to hit these numbers. They're in the hundreds. They typically have the best people that have grown through the ranks in Google, that have not just been hired off the street. And then there's the internal, what I call strategy team. They are spread out across different segments. Think like, okay, there's product managers, engineers, etc., and marketers for PMAX. There's another for broad match. There's another for dynamic search ads. There's another for smart bidding, and then somebody owns smart bidding exploration as a part of smart bidding. So this is like many different people. The internal strategy team, alongside the engineering team, product team, etc., form the strategies that they recommend to advertisers. These recommendations are then segmented into different groups. Think retail, like e-commerce or offline retail. And then there's automotive, there's health, there's travel, there's local. And they build out all these recommendations, strategies, and features that cater to these different groups. And it's these strategies and recommendations that the large client team, the internal SMB team, and the external team takes out to advertisers. Now, depending on how much experience that team has, they will develop and cater and make them more specific to the particular advertiser. So the large client team typically have a lot of freedom in their recommendations because they have a lot more experience and a lot better people on their teams. The reason why this works in the way that Google has done it like this is because it's impossible for Google to build out strategies for each individual account. That's why we have a $1 billion agency industry. It's because it is impossible to do without it's costing a ton of money, and every single person that runs an agency know that we can barely get to 10 people and keep quality up. Think then in the 1,000 level. You also need to understand about the client-facing teams that I just talked about. They almost all have KPIs they need to hit within ad spend and product adoption. How aggressive they are with recommending you to go to PMAX depends on how focused they are on hitting their targets. Chapter 2 in this is, what is your role? Your job is definitely not to shoot down everything Google says or find holes in what they say or just flat out reject them unless they're externals. If they're externals, just send them away. Your job is to bring your unique insights about your client's business to the conversation, because sometimes you'll agree with what Google says and sometimes you'll heavily disagree. But get on their good side. Get them to tell you where you're wrong. So if you say, I'm not going to run broad match, which I'm going to show you later in this video in the deck that I got from Google for a client, get them to tell you where you're wrong. Like, show them the data that you have. Like, where am I wrong? Make sure you find out, like, another part of your role is to find out what type of rep you have. If it's the external telemarketer, just find a LinkedIn profile, send it to Google and say, this guy has 4 months of experience. Do we want to listen to him? There's cases where you have to, but I'll cover that later. Tell Google when they do something good or brought something valuable to the table, but be firm when it doesn't fit into the thing. Just be open-minded. Like, I'm going back and forth on this a little bit, but I love you all, but we all think we're much smarter than we are. I've discussed things with incredibly tenured PPC people that run some of the largest accounts in Europe, and I've gotten them to some nuances to certain things that they just completely closed their mind to seeing. Some today even said that they didn't want to run smart bidding. This might be you. Like, just because it's something that Google have said doesn't mean that we should say no to it. Be open-minded. Bring ammunition to say no. Test what you don't have ammunition to say no to. Learn. Then use the data to shoot down the recommendation next time with data. But in all of this, your role is to bring nuances, because all of Google's presentations, they sound great, have great case studies, great recommendations, great numbers. But if you bring the nuance and you help make Google accountable by keeping track of their recommendations and how well they've worked out, you're going to get more out of your Google rep, and you're going to be able to shoot down and not waste your time as much as before. The chapter 3 is making sure you understand your client. I'm just going to briefly do this, but I like to group clients in 3 categories. There's the brand new client. They're flattered that Google has even reached out. There's number 2 is they've been in the game for a while. They've seen some good things from Google and they've seen some bad things from Google. And the third group is they're just absolutely jaded. Google has just again and again and again recommended the wrong things and wasted their time and money. Depending on how your point of contact is, your approach to your Google app should differ. Again, the group with the jaded people, you can just discard Google and just do with whatever you want. If they've been in the game for a little bit, if it's a large client team, you might want to take them in and just hear them out and figure out what works and what doesn't work, but you don't have to be as protective. The brand new people, the ones that are flattered that Google have reached out, I just want to really, really highlight that you will be seen very close-minded if you don't at least take the meeting with them and with Google, because their opinion is almost always the same. They're Google. How can they not know more about their own platform than you do? It's like simply just discarding these Google reps. It'll make you look like you think you're God. That leads to a bunch of different conversations like, well, what is he worried about they'll find in there? Why are you so close-minded? Now, chapter 4 on this is what I don't like about Google. And I'll keep this a little bit brief before we get to the deck in a second. But I don't like how salesy they are. And I don't like their case studies. I don't like how they present these numbers. Because when you start asking the product managers questions like, what was the data foundation for this case study? Their answers are never good. For a case study, they'll say like, oh, those numbers are from a single case study, one advertiser. Second I hear it's from a single case study, I stop listening. And this is the problem with most of Google's case studies, is I don't know what the foundation was. I don't know what the baseline that the advertiser came from. If the broad match produced 50% more conversions when enabled, were they only running exact match? Were they running dynamic search ads on the side? What were they actually doing? I don't know. So like almost all the numbers I discard immediately because it's not the same baseline as I have. And then there's the things like, what exactly are we comparing in the case studies? Because when I've asked in the past, sometimes like, this was the worst one I saw. We're just comparing apples to oranges. This was a case where they were comparing upgrading standard shopping to PMax with full assets. And I go, wait. We're at least like running PMax feed only, or only comparing to the shopping part of PMax. They're like, no. It's standard shopping to PMax with full assets. So we're comparing shopping to shopping plus search. Obviously, that's going to bring more to the table. Of course, if that only brings 18% or 10% or 20% more conversions, I'm absolutely mind blown. You can't get more out of doing that. So that's stupid. Now, let's go through how I approached a deck with recommendations from Google. So this is the actual deck that I got from Google. It doesn't say anywhere that this is under an NDA. So here we go. There's a couple things here. PMax adoption is one thing where we're just looking at it, and we don't have it in that many places. We only had it once, and it's actually a little bit lucky because we have run a test on a smaller account. But in this case, I would most likely just say no. I don't believe in PMax for the type of advertiser I'm working with here, and we have 3 specific things that PMax don't allow us to do. We don't get impression share metrics, which for me is like I need it for shopping. We do max bid limits a ton, so not having that also kills me. And then prioritizing other products over others is also a product that we don't have access to with PMax. But honestly, I think we'll end up saying yes to running PMax and just trying out on 1 or 2 of the accounts, because I don't think it's going to hurt tremendously in the short term. And this way we can stop it from being a conversation. I just wanted to stop us talking about, well, what if we did PMax? Would we do 50% better or not? That's a conversation I want to make sure we have. Then there's broad match. So the conversation down here is that broad match is 0, meaning that there's very limited coverage of relevant queries. And that's like, I don't like the wording. It's just not true. Like, we have very good coverage of all our key terms. We use phrase match as well, so that we cover terms that are within the categories that we're selling. And we use dynamic search ads to cover anything else we're not covering already today. So I think this is just a stupid recommendation, and we're most likely not going to do it. It also only brings in 12% more conversion value. My issue with this is that right now we don't have a lot of profit in the account. We're trying to raise profit, and the waste that will come with enabling broad match will be a problem. So this is where I'm bringing in more to the conversation, and we will add the angle of, okay, this is where we are right now. We're going for profit. I don't think that we should open up a waste-seeking mission like this. I don't think it's wise at this point in time. Broad match, I have it on my list. Like, this is not rocket science. I can bring it in at a later point. Then there is the part about AI Max adoption, future-ready search readiness. So their recommendation is to enable AI Max to ensure we're ready for the AI mode and AI overview. I'm generally in favor of AI Max, but it's just not useful at this point in time. I have another video where I go through this. But I also want to correct Google here, because they're claiming that we need to use AI Max to get into AI views, but that's simply just not true. However, instead of doing a I gotcha moment in the meeting I had with Google and a client, I just said we've covered this through the other campaign types, dynamic search ads, through static shopping, and then waited for what they said, because they agreed with me. That's true. You don't need AI Max. Cool. Then we can move on. Then another recommendation we look at here is the bidding strategy. So we use smart bidding, we use portfolio biddings. They don't like that we're using bid limits. There's nothing to do that as part of our strategy. We're not going to move away from that. Client also agrees. Then they say that they want to test ROAS and branding campaigns. That is just absolutely stupid. We're not going to waste time on that recommendation. That's just ridiculous. Then they want to add aggregate ad groups with under 30 conversions in search. Now this is stupid too, and I'll show you why in the account. So the reason why this is stupid is that literally that would take our search campaigns into just 2 ad groups. Yes, maybe we can take some of the others and like some of the other ad groups and group together so we can accumulate to 30 conversions. But then we're going to start putting in, let me take another example. We're going to put in running shoes with shin guards. They don't go together. They're already in the same campaign. If they're not in the same campaign, then they're in the same portfolio. So what are we going to do more than this? So this is a very, very key recommendation that I just think is stupid. Then the last one here is we wanted to recommend that customer list is not updated in 2024. The reason why I wanted to mention this and why it hurts a little bit, because this is obviously something I should have caught. This hurts my pride a little bit, that this is something Google is looking at. I actually looked at it 3 months ago and I didn't find a mistake. I just looked at the audience list, saw that they were like over 100,000. I was like, oh, okay, they were great. You know what? I owned up to that. I said that we should have checked better, and the client fixed the data sync in 10 minutes. So don't fight Google when they're right. Give them their flowers, even if it puts you in a bad light. So to summarize all this, understand your client. Where are they? Have they experience dealing with Google? If no, just know they'll be flattered Google reaches out to them, and you have to play along until they see it from your side. Understand your rep. Who are you dealing with? Is it a glorified telemarketer or is it the large client team? There's a huge difference. And then play your part. Bring the nuance into the picture, and don't just diss on Google for stating the obvious, and don't just be negative. It'll reflect poorly on you. If you don't agree with an approach, come with proof. Otherwise, you just seem close-minded. And at the end of the day, for goodness sake, I say this to every single person that starts in Savvy, don't jump on a random Google rep call. They're a completely waste of time if you know what you're doing. So that's my end advice to you. If you have any thoughts on Google reps, please put them in the comments below. If you're into practical PPC insights that you can actually help you, then subscribe. I share tips, breakdowns, and call out what's working and what's not. No fluff, just the stuff that you can use every single week.